I'm here with Alexandra Stapleton, and she has brought the most beautiful flower cards. These are absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you so much, Julie.
And now you've promised me that this is something that even I, a very messy person, can do.
Absolutely. These are really quick and simple cards. Super, super simple. So all we're going to do is just take a piece of plain white cardstock, and you could stamp this with an acrylic block or a stamp platform. Either will work perfectly fine. And take your favorite floral stamp. And this one I'm going to be using a teapot, of course, being British. You know I was going to choose a teapot.
Well, I was going to say, I love tea.
There you go.
It's ubiquitous.
So I'm just going to pop it in here.
Ah, so it sticks to the other side.
Sticks to the other side.
Okay.
And then I'm just going to ink it up with my favorite black ink. So you can use any ink.
I will say that I did hear someone say once that too often we sort of ink our stamps, meaning we push them onto the stamp pad, but it's better actually to like stamp your ink or whatever they put it, that you're meant to like actually press it the other way.
And just tap it. You don't have to be too strong with it. I like using a hybrid ink because then I don't have to worry about what medium.
What is a hybrid ink?
So a hybrid ink allows you to use alcohol-based coloring or water-based coloring, or both in the same image. You don't have to think, oh, I want to use watercolors or I want to use my alcohol markers. You can use either or both.
And now, is a hybrid ink a hybrid between dye and pigment? Is that the two things?
Pretty much, from a chemical point of view, yes.
Wait, you're stamping again?
Yes, so the stamp platform allows me, if I don't get a perfect image or I miss a little bit, I can stamp exactly the same place. That's why I love using a stamp
This is why you
platform.
said even I, messy, can go ahead and do this.
And you can see I have the absolute perfect image on there.
Very cool.
So I'm just going to put my stamp platform to the side for now. And I have already colored one in, you can see here. And I colored this with alcohol-based markers.
Okay.
And if you
you could use colored pencils or watercolor or whatever your favorite
whatever your
choice
favorite
is.
medium is. And I'm going to be using my electronic cutting machine to cut it out because, as you can see on the sample at the front there, I like to cut it out and just pop it up on some foam. It just gives a little bit of dimension.
Can I talk about how much I love foam adhesive? It makes everything look more special.
It really does.
And actually, I was in the store the other day and I noticed that a lot of the commercial greeting cards are using basically foam adhesive to make the cards look more special now.
Yes. It just adds a little bit of professionalism and a bit of pop to your cards, and it's just so easy as well. So I'm going to scan in my image first of all, and we're just going to change our scanner lever.
And then go ahead and cut it out.
Absolutely. And the other thing is with this, I can change how much of a border I want. And I made myself a quick cheat guide because it just makes it easier. So I can decide how much of a border I want to have as well.
I love visual guides because for me, just seeing, I'm not a number person.
Exactly.
So seeing the numbers, I can't guess what it's going to look like. Right. So it's nice to know that.
Exactly. So we'll just frame up our stamped image on here.
So now, if you had colored outside the lines or something, then you have to be a little bit careful, I assume, about staying within the lines of your stamped image.
Right, if I'd done a background and things like that, then I might center it onto a shape like I did on the gift tag. So I can center it onto a shape. I don't just have to cut out the outline. I mean, this is so quick and easy.
Well, the other thing I've noticed is a lot of times the things that I think are mess ups, other people don't think are mess ups, and that's because you know what you were thinking of doing, but nobody else does.
Right.
You know, so it's kind of like be kind to yourself.
It's also, you know, if you're not a crafter, you wouldn't necessarily know that something was wrong.
Yes.
Whereas as crafters and artists, we definitely know, you know, if we've done something wrong, we're definitely our worst critics.
It's 100% true.
So here I have a card base that I've already pre-scored down the middle. So I'm just going to fold that up. And I use a bone folder to make it nice and crisp too.
And a bone folder is something that comes from bookbinding, right? That bookbinders use.
And I like using a Teflon one because it has this nice curve in it and you can just see how easy it makes a crease in there. But then when I go to actually assemble my card, I make it flat again because it puts it flat on the table. If I have it like that, you see it's still bouncy, and then I don't get it perfectly lined up again. And then I have my layers already pre-cut too. So I'm going to use a black layer, a white layer, and then we're going to add on.
So the black layer and the white layer remind me a little bit of, like, let's say a mat and a frame or something like that.
So as though you were framing a picture, exactly the same technique.
Very cool. And I see you've made it just a tiny hair smaller.
Quarter of an inch each time. So I find that makes a really nice kind of size. So whether you're using European sizing, British sizing, American sizing, just always kind of go a quarter of an inch in each time.
Okay. And then you always get that beautiful little extra. And I think that's so beautiful. It really is one of those little things that makes a big difference.
Exactly. Again, just like the foam tape we're going to be using. So I have my big roll of foam tape here.
That is you don't do anything small. That is a very big roll of foam tape.
It is a big roll. It does last me a long time, but it's definitely the easiest way to go. So I just lay down some strips like this. I cut them. I always craft with non-stick scissors because nothing then ever sticks to them.
Oh, I didn't even think about that, but that's true. Then you don't worry about having to cut through adhesive and stuff like that.
Exactly. And if I need to make a thin strip, I can cut down the middle. Nothing's going to stick to my scissors. Makes it so much easier.
Makes that really easy.
And then I'm going to position this slightly up so that we can add a sentiment down the bottom.
Isn't it amazing how that foam adhesive just adds that small amount of dimension? It's great.
And the other thing I want to do is I want to show you a simple tip for adding a sentiment.
Okay.
So I like using an acrylic block for my sentiments. You could use the stamp platform, but first thing you want to do is line up your sentiment with that acrylic grid.
I was going to say there's a grid on the block and you can see through it so you can easily grab that stamp.
So the other thing I'm going to then do is work out where I want my sentiment to be. So do you see how that acrylic line there just lines up with the edge of my card?
Oh, so you're not actually focused on the sentiment, you're focused on that line when you go ahead and stamp this.
Exactly.
Interesting. I never thought of that. It's such a simple but easy tip.
So the next thing I'm going to do is I just kind of tilt my block till I'm lined up, and then I tilt it forward, press down.
Press it down.
Lift up, and then I have that perfectly straight sentiment.
That's gorgeous.
Again, but it just makes sure you have that straight sentiment. And then I'll take something like an enamel drop or a glitter drop and just add a couple of those around.
That again is one of those extra steps that just makes it a little more special, a little more personal. You didn't have to do it, but it just makes it even better. It raises it up a level.
And you can add them to the center of your flowers. This one's going to dry clear, so it just adds that little bit of glitter into your area as well.
Super cool. And if we look at the finished ones, you can see how those glitter drops dry a little flatter than what they're showing up as right now.
Yes, they level out just a little bit, but add that dimension, a little bit of sparkle. Who doesn't love some sparkle?
Well, I love some sparkle. So I love how all of this turned out. Thank you so much, Alexandra.
You're so welcome, Julie.
This was fantastic.
Thank you so much.